Right now, we're watching for the Democrats' two most influential messengers to come together when President Biden and the First Lady welcome the Obamas back to the White House for their official portrait unveiling. It is the Obamas' first time back together since 2017 when they moved out. A number of former Obama officials are attending as well, including my next guest, who's been kind enough to slip out to the North Lawn while we wait for the ceremony to begin. Valerie Jarrett served as senior advisor to President Obama and is currently CEO of the Obama Foundation. Great to see you, Valerie. How's it feel to be back?
Oh, and it's maybe a glorious day.
Is it?
Absolutely. It's my first time back, Chris. And so what better opportunity to come back and have the privilege of being the guest of President Biden and Dr. Biden and be here with the Obamas, who are also coming back together for the first time today to celebrate this historic portrait unveiling. I couldn't be happier.
How do you think, or maybe you've talked to them, I wouldn't be surprised, how do they feel about coming back and about the portraits? We do know, and Michael Beschloss was talking about this in the last hour, that there have been presidents who weren't so happy when they saw the unveiling.
Well, both of them very pleased with the portraits. And I think mostly they're enthusiastic about knowing that from now on, when guests come through the White House, they're going to see this incredible portraits of both President and Mrs. Obama and the historic mark that they meant, making this the People's House, the incredible 8 years of service to our country, and the story that tells and how it reflects so well on our country. So it's a proud moment for them. I'm honored to be here. I've just left so many of our alumni with whom I had the privilege of working for 8 full years. So it's a reunion and a festivity and a perfect day at the White House.
So let me ask you about another side of this, because there were these reports. There's an extensive story in the Washington Post about tensions among members of the two administrations. And I want to read part of it. It says, quote, some Biden loyalists are resentful that Obama didn't throw his weight behind Biden's presidential aspirations, complaining that even now Obama's team does not fully respect Biden. Obama loyalists are frustrated that Biden's aides regularly boast of how they have avoided the mistakes of the Obama White House, such as failing to sufficiently tout the president's accomplishment. What do you say to that? Will you say unequivocally that's not the case? Tell me the truth here, Valerie.
Hogwash. And if you could feel the sentiment in that room, first of all, many of the people who served in the Obama-Biden White House are not serving in the Biden White House. My former chief of staff is chief of staff to the National Security Council, was just appointed ambassador to the ASEAN countries. We have so many overlaps, and the enthusiasm and the excitement that is in that room that you will feel palpably will erase all of the nonsense that I think that you're going to hear. This is why I don't live in Washington anymore. This is why I'm outside of this chamber and back around the American people who celebrate what President and Mrs. Obama did, who recognize that part of his legacy is the important work that President Biden is doing now, and who want to come back together and have a wonderful celebration together. And that's what's most important.
Let me ask you to put on your former hat and talk politics, because we know the former president remains probably the most popular Democrat in the country. He's going back on the campaign trail. I think at least 3 fundraisers have been scheduled just this month. What's the calculation in deciding where he's campaigning, in what capacity? Talk about the role he wants to play and that you think he'll play going forward.
Well, the good news is this, Chris. Now that I'm the CEO of the Obama Foundation, I am out of politics, so you'll have to ask some of your pundits about that. I do know he's still the most popular person in the party outside of the president himself, and I'm sure he will be welcomed on the campaign trail. But commenting on politics is not my job anymore.
So let me ask you this, because I know that there isn't a Democrat who has not talked about what they see as a threat to democracy. We heard President Biden's big speech in Philadelphia about the fight for the soul of America. So there is a question out there. Should that be the message for the Democrats? Should it be about economic progress that has been made? Many of the programs that happened during the Obama administration and are happening during the Biden administration kind of overlap. Do you agree with the assessment that the Democrats' biggest failing may be that they have not been able to be clear on a single message?
Let me comment your question a different way, because I really am staying out of the politics. I think the strength of our democracy should be a nonpartisan issue. I think every American, regardless of political ideology, should care that the United States remains the beacon of hope the symbol of a strong and healthy democracy where institutions matter, where the American people's voices matter. And so I don't understand why this is even remotely being described in partisan terms. I think our country should come together. At the Obama Foundation, one of the things President Obama is focusing on is how do we strengthen our democracy? What's the role of government? What's the role of business? What's the role of individual citizens? What do we do about all this disinformation? How do we get the truth out? How do we make sure that we're communicating directly with the people who are counting on government to work for them? And so I look at it through a nonpartisan lens.
And from a nonpartisan lens, let me ask you finally about the importance of tradition, because some people may watch this and say, well, it's another ceremony, doesn't mean much. It's a photo op for Obama and Biden. But there is a tradition. He will be the first black man to have his portrait hung as president of the United States. What does today mean, really?
I think traditions are really important. I think that institutions are important. I think that social norms are important. And I think that when visitors come through the White House and they see the first black president and first black first lady who raised their remarkable daughters in this house behind me, and the way they comported themselves while he was in office, they're focused first on the American people and what to do to make our country fairer, more just for everyone. The way they really tried to unify our country with headwinds coming from all kinds of directions, and how they always, their true north was what was right for our country. And that's what guided him. Not politics, but what was his job on behalf of the American people, and how could the First Lady help him do that job effectively? And that story is an important story to tell, and I want all the folks who are watching to take a moment and just celebrate that. That is something that should be a celebration for our entire country. Again, this shouldn't be partisan. We have both Democratic and Republican portraits hung up in that gallery, and it tells the story of the American people, the story of our government, of our highest office, a really important story to tell and to celebrate.
Well, you're very kind to take time away from all of your old friends and colleagues, and I'll let you get back to it. But Valerie Jarrett, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you, Chris.